Okay, hello everyone. Um, Today we are holding the session as we promised with you on a very topical issue that impacts a lot of us, especially in this day and age. So the topic is focused on both money laundering and anti-money laundering. You all know the topic. It's money laundering and compliance challenges in modern economies. And we have a power-packed panel discussion all ready for you to carry on. And we have with us today our guest, Mr. Den Surfraz, whose full name is Den Sallahuddin Surfraz. And he has a very interesting story about his name. Maybe towards the end, if he like to, he can share about that. Den is from Mauritius, and he has a very interesting background, ranging all the way from a police carrier to now working in the banking industry. He has already worked at senior positions, and I've had the honor to work alongside him at the International Assembly. I have seen the kind of work Dan does, and I've seen the advocacy he does for our members, and I'm proud to call you my friend, Dan. Welcome, and thank you for sparing the time today.
Thank you. Thank you, Omer. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to our members about this very, very important topics, which is AML safety for accountants. So thank you, Omer. And so I'm here today to speak to you about AML safety risk that accountants are facing, right, globally, and how we need to adhere to the AML safety legislations, what internal controls need to be put in place, and how we ensure that the internal controls are working properly. So as Omer said, so I started my career as a police officer 30 years back. So I have been with the police in the anti-drug and smuggling unit for a bit more than 30 years, investigating drug trafficking and smuggling cases. And then after that, I joined the Financial Intelligence Unit of Mauritius as an investigator for AML CFT, that is anti-money laundering and financing of terrorism. It's where I started studying my ACCA qualifications, because this would have been a great help to me for my forensic investigations. After 3.5 years at the Financial Intelligence Unit, I joined the private sector, the offshore sector, as a compliance professional. So I was with CIPCO. CIPCO is a global company, the leader of hedge fund, of fund services, and then the fund industry, Barak Fund, and then now I am with Butterfield as the head of compliance. My professional engagement, so for ACCA, I started advocating for the qualifications since 2009. I have been chairman of the vice chairman of ACCA Mauritius in 2014, and now presently I'm the chairman for the next 2 years. I'm a board member of the Mauritius Institute of Professional Accountant, which is a main regulator for the accountancy profession in Mauritius. And also I am a board member of the Financial Reporting Council for Mauritius. So that's a little introduction about myself. So let's kick off these sessions and answers to your questions, everything. Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. Wow. Now I have to do the tough part of introducing myself. As most of you already know, I'm Omer Zaheer Meer. I'm presently the second time unanimous chair of ACCMNP in Pakistan. I'm also honored to be contributing on the Global Tax Forum and the International Assembly of ACCA. I'm of the editorial board of the Policy Insights of ACCA and contribute on the Professional Experts Forum too. I'm also chairing the Tax Clinic of Lahore Chamber of Commerce and Industry and ACCA in my capacity as, I think it's the fourth time, chair of the taxation subcommittee of ACCA here. There are a few other contributions as well. Professionally, you all are already aware that I'm the managing partner taxation and corporate services at MLCC. That's Millennium Law and Corporate Company, the pioneer ACC and legal practicing firm, not just in Pakistan, but the entire region. And with regard to today's topic, our firm has been honored to be working closely with several banks on their AML CFT compliance as well as drafting of policies, etc. So I think with the intros out of the way, we are ready for today's session then.
Yeah, sure. So let's kick off, Omer, with your question. So the
First
first
theme of
topic,
the day.
yeah, the
Okay.
first theme, yeah, is about what are the responsibilities of accountants with regards to the AML CFT. So basically, I will not go into much details. So this is a high level discussion. So if we do go into basic details, that will take us days to discuss AML CFT. If we look at FATF definition, so accountants are the gatekeepers for the financial system, right? Facilitating vital transactions that underpin the economy. As such, they have a significant role to play in ensuring their services are not used to further a criminal purpose. As professionals, accountants must act with integrity and uphold the law, and they must not engage in criminal activities. So basically, this is also in line with our code of ethics. So, what our code of ethics tell us to do, right, as an accountant. And so we have the AML safety law. We have, as accountants, we have certain responsibilities to adhere to that law. And Mauritius or globally, we have different AML safety regimes. So the way the AML safety regimes is in Pakistan is not the. I don't think it's the same with in Mauritius. There is a bit of difference, but the main objectives is the same. That is to prevent the system for being used for money laundering, and also to prevent it from being used for financing of terrorism. Right? So basically, for Mauritius, the main regulator for the accountancy profession is the Mauritius Institute of Professional Accountants. Right? And who are the accountants who are concerned with these regulations? That is, to be regulated by MIPA. They are defined under the guidelines as a professional accountant, that is, accountants providing professional services, public accountants, member firms under the Financial Reporting Act, who prepares for or carried out transactions for their clients concerning the following activities: buying and selling of real estate, managing of client money, securities, and or other assets, management of bank savings or securities accounts, organizations of contributions for the creation, operations, or management of legal persons such as a company, a foundations, a limited liability partnerships, or such other entity as may be prescribed. Creating, operating, or management of legal persons such as a company, a foundations, an association, a limited liability partnerships, or such other entity as may be prescribed or legal, and arrangement and buying and selling of business entities. So basically, all these activities falls within the regulated ambit. You see,
Yeah.
yeah. So
That's great. I think what we need to probably do is add a bit of definition about money laundering. So, if you allow me, I would just quickly go through the definition of money laundering as per the Vienna Convention 1988. And we all know that pre 9/11, it was mostly focused on drug trafficking, anti narcotics, and smuggling. However, a legal definition always keeps rooms. So I'll go through the updated version so our attendees do understand what we are talking about. So the money laundering as per the Vienna Convention's updated definition is the or conversion or transfer of property, knowing, now see the keyword knowing, that such a property is derived from any drug trafficking or other offense or offenses, or from an act of participation in such an offense or offenses for the purposes of what? Concealing or disguising the illicit origin of the property, or of assisting any person who is involved in the commission of such an offense or offenses to evade the legal consequences of his action. It further says that the concealment or disguise of the true nature, source, location, disposition, movement, rights with respect to, or ownership of property, knowing that such property is derived from an offense or offenses or from an act of participation in such an offense or offenses. So, quite a complication definition then there. For our audience, perhaps we can say that money laundering is basically the act of knowing, or where you should know if you act professionally, that the proceeds of a criminal activity or illegal activity are put through the legal channels, the banking or other financial institution, and camouflaged to hide their origin and taken out to be integrated within the legal system. So now onward back to you, we were discussing what is the role of accountant. You very rightly shared that which kind of accountants are dealing with these things. So many times in practical life, people face difficult choices. An accountant may think that I have some doubt. The business cash flows are very unusual. The documentation is not very straight. I've been not shared all the information. The whistleblowing arrangements are not really that good within the jurisdiction or within the business. So, in such a situation, what advice would you give to our fellow accountants?
Yeah. So Omer, as an accountants, we are always governed by the code of ethics, right? From of IFAC, right? So we need to adhere to the code of ethics, and as I started, and I just mentioned, right? What's expected from us from our behavior, right? So basically, even though we don't have any other law, for example, that govern us to combat AML CFT, but we have the code of ethics which warrants us, right, to come forward if ever we see that we are suspicious about things, we're not too sure, and for these things we need to escalate. Of course, we need to escalate. And that doesn't mean that when we escalate, when we report all these suspicious transactions, that there's a risk that we are losing our client, or because the law is very well written, and with, so we are protected by the confidentiality of that legislation, and whenever we make any disclosure, right, we will be well protected. Our names will never come forward, and the authorities knows how to deal with that. And of course, depending on the cases, if you think that this client is a high risk for you, and you should not proceed in servicing that client, you have the right to just to resign from that assignment, because as an accountant, as a human being, you are not here, you are not there to promote illegal things, or facilitate money laundering or something like that. If you have this doubt, and you're not too sure, you can resign from that assignment. But if you think that yes, you have suspicions, but you're not too sure, and the client looks okay, but you can continue to service those clients, that's for sure, and that will not in any case impede on your ability. I know that nowadays there's the great competitions. We accountants, we struggle to get clients, and we need to service, we need to get fees, but we need to know where to evolve, and in which environment we need to perform, and whether we need to perform it correctly. We need to keep our reputations high, and continue to service good clients. So we need to work on these things and decide. So for me, whenever you have suspicions, you need to investigate further, and if you think that you need to escalate, that's for sure. Yeah.
That's great. Totally agreed. And I think that's a very rightful answer. You always have the code and ethics to govern you. And then many time members ask me, if we are not certain about code or ethics, what should we do? My formal answer is read it so you get to know it. But my informal answer is ask yourself, your heart always tells you whether what you are doing is right or not. So with that, we'll move on to the next theme. What kind of internal controls should be there in any organization, especially in the financial sector, to have an effective AML CFT regime in place? So I would like you to go first, and then I'll complete.
Sure, Omer. So thank you. I think that we need to go to the risk-based approach guidelines that have been issued by the Financial Action Task Force, that is FATF. So the risk-based approach to AML safety, it means that accountants should identify, assess, and understand the money laundering and terrorist financing risk to which they are exposed and take the required measures to effectively and efficiently mitigate and manage the risk. So basically, this is risk-based approach. How we proceed then? So for accountants, identifying money laundering, financing terrorism risks, and maintaining an understanding of those risks faced by the sector, as well as specific to their services, client base, the jurisdictions in which they operate, the delivery channel, and the effectiveness of the actual and potential risk and controls that are or can be put in place will require the investment of resources and training, that's for sure. So if we need to have a robust internal control to combat AML safety, all right, and to adhere to our code of ethics, to adhere to the local legislations, so we need to invest, that's for sure. And we need to have the required resources and training. So the general principle of risk-based approach is that where there are high risk, enhanced measures should be taken to manage and mitigate those risks, right? So the range, degree, frequency, or intensity of preventive measures and controls conducted should be stronger in higher scenarios. So accountants are required to apply each of the customer due diligence measures, right? That is as follows. So what I'm saying is identifications and verifications of client identity. So sometimes when we service a company, we see that the main shareholder of that company is a trust. So do we just identify that trust, have the trust deed? So no. So we need to go further. We need to go further and identify the ultimate beneficial owners. This is what FATF is telling us. This is what the law is telling us. And going further, we need to identify the source of funds, right? So basically, that client is making an investment and you're handling that part of that investment. You need to understand where has he got that money? Where does that money come from? This is a source of funds. And we also need to know the source of wealth. That is a patrimoine, how that customer accumulated his wealth. So one example, if, for example, we are servicing a client and that client, you see that client has been involved after some searches on the internet for that. So you have been servicing for a few years and see that, oh, that client has been arrested once for drug trafficking. Oh my God. So what you do, right? You need to ask yourself, are you in the right domain right now? I think you need to report that because there is a risk that you are managing, right? Funds derived from criminal activities, that is drug trafficking. So this is an example, right? So we need to identify the source of wealth, source of funds, and identifications and take reasonable measures to verify the identity of the ultimate beneficial owners, not only the beneficial owners, ultimate, right? So, for example, in the trust, we identify who was the settlor. So the one who has set up the trust will put the money. Who are the beneficiaries with effective interest, right? Those beneficiaries who has an effective interest in the trust, not only named beneficiaries. So for discretionary trust, we know that the beneficiary will get something whenever the trust will end. That's for sure. So we don't care about them for that time. But for the trust where the beneficiary has got effective interest, we need to see to identify them. Of course, we need to understand the purpose and nature of the business relationship, and of course, ongoing monitoring of the relationship. So these are the things that we need to implement, and of course to ensure that we have a good internal control in place. And then we need to identify risk and do a risk assessment, take appropriate steps to identify and assess the risk firm-wide, given their particular client base, and that they should could be used for money. That is, whether they could be used for money laundering and financing terrorism, right? So basically, we need also to determine factors to see out the factors to determine the risk, like country and geographic risk, client risk, transactions and delivery channel risk, product risk, and services, and what type of services were being provided. So basically, Omer, these things needs to be put in place correctly, and we need to have a good internal control in place, and test the internal controls oftenly. Policies and procedures were written, approved by high management, and of course, regular trading, targeted trading, training for the board, training for staff dealing with billing, training for staff dealing with audits, all that. So target the training and explain to them what they need to do, and how they need to escalate, and of training about internal disclosures, and appoint the correct money laundering reporting officer, independent, giving the independence to report STRs, have a regulatory compliance manager that understand how you need to be to adhere to stick to the regulatory requirements. So all these things need to be done, and of course, ongoing monitoring, periodic reviews of our clients, ongoing monitoring of our transactions, right? That will help you to identify suspicious transactions. Yeah. So all these things need to be implemented and put in place. Yeah.
Thank you, Dan, for the detailed answer. I think our audience really learned from that. As a comparative, I'll share briefly about the situation in Pakistan. It's quite similar, because obviously our regulations are coming from the same source, the recommendations of FATF, the guidelines. The state regulator in Pakistan is known as SBP, State Bank of Pakistan. So State Bank incorporates these FATF guidelines within its own circulars and guidelines, and issue to all the financial institutions in the country. So it's quite similar. It starts with KYC, know your customer, where Pakistan is blessed in the sense that not many people know that it's one of the few countries which has a very reliable and automated citizen identification system. So we have an entire authority, National Authority for Database NADRA, which regulates all that data. Citizens are issued national identity card, and now these cards are smart cards. So they have all that data stored on them. So if anybody comes to open an account, you can simply get their national identity card, verify it with NADRA, and you have all their details, their family tree, everything. So it's very systematic, very organized. I think there are just a few countries that have such sort of a citizen identification system. I know for a fact that UK tried something similar, but there were protests about privacy rights and all, and it could never materialize. Anyway, so the first step is obviously knowing your customer, KYC. Once the KYC is properly performed, and it's not just having the identification, it's also about why the account needs to be open, what is the source of income, and building a customer profile with an expectation of how the account will perform. Once that is done, then after successful opening of the account, and in between, I have to mention that several other things have to be considered: the negative list, the high risk areas, the high risk professions, any sanctions list of the UN, US, European Union. If anybody is on them, you can't open their account, etc. Compliance with FATCA regulations, ensuring that if someone is the UK national or a US national or resident, they do give their US tax number, and that is reported, etc., etc. So there is a plethora of regulatory confirmation. Once that's completed as part of KYC processes, the account is open. Once the account is opened, it is then monitored, like you also pointed out, to ensure that it's in compliance with the profile that was formed. So, for example, if somebody opened an account as a salary account with an expected salary of 50,000, and after a couple of months, they are having a waived wire transfer of 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, then the system would automatically raise a flag that something is fishy here. The account is not performing as per the profile. Where are these monies coming from? What is the source of them that needs to be identified? Similarly, if the transactions are beyond certain amount limits, especially in case of foreign currency transactions, before the transaction is processed, the bank and branch actually verify the sources and requisite information from the customer. So a continuous due diligence CDD is performed on the account, and on accounts that are suspicious or a high risk or performing those activities, EDD, enhanced due diligence, is performed. So just like you said, these are the sessions which can take week and week, but I think we have briefly covered up the essence of that. A couple of things that I would like to add before moving on to the next theme we have to discuss, that regular reviews are performed. So whenever there is a change in customers' information, they are encouraged to share that. Whether they share or not, at the end of every year, the customer is to be contacted and their information reconfirmed with them, whether they are still living at that address, whether they still have those contact information, whether the information sources are the same, or whether there has been any change in their circumstances. So, due to the FATF scenario, then many people think that perhaps the AML regime in Pakistan is not that strong, but let me tell you, and you'll be surprised, Pakistan has one of the strongest regime, and I'm telling you this from a neutral perspective. I've lived in the West. I've also traveled the world. I've just given you a few flavors, like having the National Database Authority, having all that information in the smart card, having the access to verify. There were lacunas that needed to be closed, and the regulators have worked intensively on that, especially on training the bankers. I mean, I myself am involved with the State Bank in performing trainings of bankers. I'm involved with the largest public sector bank of Pakistan. On behalf of ACCA, I've also performed trainings for larger private sector banks. So I have a first-hand understanding of the work that's taking place. Now, before we move on to the next theme, would you like to share with us what is the situation in Mauritius? What are the challenges you are facing and how you are coping with it?
Yeah, of course, Omer. So I think we are on the same boat. So as Pakistan is on the FATF list, so Mauritius also is on the FATF list since the last 6 months.
Yeah, we seem to love
And
each other a lot.
no, that doesn't mean, as you said, that we don't have a strong AML safety regime. We do have it because Mauritius is a very important financial sector in the region and globally. So we have all those big companies present in Mauritius, all those multinationals. So I think that we have a robust one. But I think that. Some of the sectors, like as I've said, for example, the accountancy profession didn't have a specific AML safety regulator. So now that we have implemented this, and other professions like the legal professions, right, public notaries, the jewelers, they're all now being regulated for AML safety purposes. They have their own regulators. So these things have just been implemented, right, as per recommendation from the FATF. And of course, there are the requirements about the ultimate beneficial owner register, all these. So all these things are being implemented. So I think that if you see the latest update from the FATF, because they just issued another list on the 26th of October, I think, and you will see that FATF said that Mauritius has made great progress toward achieving, right, the requirements of the FATF, and I do believe that in the next review, Mauritius will no longer be on that list. So we were strong, and we have made very good progress just to meet the requirements of the FATF. Yeah.
Fantastic. So I hope that we together as brothers and friends would be going off the gray list in the next preliminary, the session of FATF.
Yeah.
So that brings us to the next theme of today's session then. The theme is, how can accountants in businesses other than financial institutions play a part to ensure a strong a strong AML CFT compliance. So we know and we have talked about the roles and responsibilities in the financial sector, especially banks. But we are now shifting our focus to other businesses because the entire economy is intertwined. just like the global economy is also intertwined in now. So, in your opinion, as a professional, as a banker, as a professional chartered certified accountant, what role we accountants can play in non-financial institution to support the AML CFT regime and compliance?
Yeah, of course. So as I've said, those accountants which are not connected to the banking sector, so non-financial, so they are still being regulated, right, by the regulator, right? So they still have the responsibility. One, by under the code of ethics or IFAC, they have that responsibility to report, and of course under the legislations. So the objective is the same. They have the same responsibility whether you work under whether the regulations is for banking institutions and for non-banking institutions. So basically, the controls need to be put in place. The controls are basically the same, but for example, for accountants, we don't need to have automated system, right, to just to monitor the transaction, because this is not a banking system, right? So we need to do it manually, right? And I do believe that human beings are still very much more important than machines, right? Right, but of course we need to develop a system on how, depending on the type of business that you are doing, and how you need to implement the controls in place, and how you ensure that you are adhering to those requirements. Just you know, things are evolving. We are now in a COVID-19 context, so this is we are just adapting to that, and you know, during the lockdown, just to tell you, internet fraud, phishing has increased by more than 400%. You see, so we have just transferred from manual works to digital works, where everything is being done digitally, signature, auditor being performed remotely, with scanned documents being sent, everything digital signature, everything. So we need to be very cautious on these things, and we need to implement other types of controls just to adhere to that, so that we are sure that we are not just getting into the trap of those people that wants to use the system. You see, so we need to be double vigilant, of course, and then you will see that with now more and more regulators, they are more aggressive. So now they come to your office and do a check and whenever, so that the enforcement team, they just come to bother you very often now, just to check your file, to check whether you have everything in place. The tick the box mentality has gone long ago. So for years now, you need to evolve and document everything and put everything in place. Right? Just tick the box. You have this. No. Ongoing monitoring, ongoing. What are you doing ongoing? How are you ensuring? Is your system still correct for today? Right? Do you need to change your system just to
Been
update the
updated.
constitution? Yeah. So all the things you need to see, you need to do all these things so that you are in touch with what's happening nowadays, because everything is changing, and the way people are doing working from home, and everything digital. So you see the technology industry, there is a boost, right, during this period. Right? For example, now Zoom has become a word, right, in the dictionary. Right, we are zooming, something like that. So different things, new things, and we need to adapt to these things. So accountants need to adapt, and I have said so. We said that accountants, they are the what you say, the main heads for the economy. So we are there. We play a very important role in our economy. It's us that can make the changes if we adhere to we want to do correct business, and we adhere to the law, and put the protocols, all the procedures, everything in place. I think we can do a great job in boosting our economy, and put everything on track. And why? why not? We can remove our country on those grey lists, so we can play a very good role in that one. In that, Omer. Yeah.
Very well said, my friend. I think you have answered this beautifully. I would just like to try to simplify the answer for our audience. The thing is this, that no matter what kind of business you are in, you are dealing with the money. If not directly, then the reporting of it. So you need to ensure that all the professional standards are abided by. You need to ensure that you are following your code of ethics and professional conduct. If we all are doing that, if all the professional accountants are doing that, then everything would start falling in place, because like we say generally about society, that it's a collection of all the individuals. Same is the case with anti-money laundering regime, that it's a collection of the entire economy. It's not just merely the responsibility of the financial institution. Yes, they have the core responsibility being at the center of the action, but every business and the professional accountants there have a responsibility to ensure that they follow the controls and regulation. And if we all are doing that, we'll be seeing a more efficient, a better world, and a more financially included world. So that brings us to the final theme. And after that, we'll be opening this session for the Q&A. So, are you ready?
Sure.
It will be a tough one. Okay. What do you think about the current regulatory structure of FATF? Do you think that it's adequate, or do you think there is still room for improvement? Because certainly it has become, in effect, a global regulator for the AML-CFT regime. And the representation of various countries is something that is often raised as a point of concern. Also, the consensus on a globally acceptable framework. So, for example, we have seen that there are certain countries where there is a very weak regime, and it's perfectly fine. See, your smile is saying that all. That's why I said, are you ready? It would be a tricky question, because we are aware of our limitations, especially on a public forum. But I have full confidence you'll handle that properly. And I'm there, the fallback guy. So let me complete the question then. So there are regimes that it's no secret but a public knowledge. There are regimes where there's much desire to be improved, but they are not on the gray list. There's nothing happening. And there are regimes that have comparatively much better systems in place, but they are on the gray list. So the question is, do you think FATF is adequate as a regulator? Or do you think there is room for improvement? If yes, where? And how can it be made more efficient?
Yeah, thank you, Omer, for this tricky, very tricky questions. But I think that I do think that as a professional accountant, right, and as a representative of our country, right. So it's not our duty to question the professionalism behind the FATF, right. So we are out of the box. So we are not in that institutions and making those decisions, right? So yes, I agree with you that the perception is that we can see that some jurisdictions, right, perhaps they are worse than ours, but they are not on that gray list. But these are perceptions, so we can't just go into those debates. But for me, my way of seeing things is that we are being told to do that, and so the FATF, they come to your country, they make an assessment of your risk, AML safety risk, and whether you have the controls in place, and they make recommendations. So for me, those people discussing with the FATF at the national level, they need to be those people within the industry that understand AML safety, the controls that have been put in place. So those people, if they are not the correct people to discuss with the FATF, they are not the people that can provide those type of comfort to the FATF officials, then we're in trouble, you see. So I think that we need to have the correct person in the right place to discuss with those people, to give them the correct comfort, So that's very important, and I have witnessed it everywhere. For example, in my organizations, whenever the regulator comes, when I was with a multinational. So for me, when I deal with a regulator, I know what answer to give them, and I know how to provide them with the proof that we are abiding to their requirement. So this need to be given correctly. And once you give them the comfort, then you can be they can be satisfied. So for me, if they have found that there's some irregularities in your system, so for me, what you need to do is just to address them, right? Address them and be compliant with this, and then for sure, if you're in compliance, you will be out of that place. And yeah, we cannot question all these things. We will not enter into geopolitics, all that. So these are things that perhaps let this for the politicians to decide. We as professional accountants, we need to focus on our professionalism and how to serve our country and how to serve the global community and how to bring the best practices in place into our country and how to bring those best practices in our company and then adhere to all these regulations, all that. So that's a very
Diplomatic answer.
diplomatic answer for you. Yeah.
But thank you very much then. I totally agree. I normally tell the same thing to the people that, look, we are professional accountants. It's not our task to make law. Our task is to comply and abide by and ensure there is proper compliance. Totally agreed with that. Leaving geopolitics aside, as a professional, the question is, as a professional, as an expert on AML CFT, do you believe there is any room for improvement in FATF professionally in their workings, in their assessment, even in the compliance regime that they are given? Uh, if there is, then how that can be achieved, and what are the areas of improvement? Leave everything aside purely from a professional point of view.
Yeah, I think in every organization there is room for improvement, Omer. Right, that's for sure. And we can't have anything perfect nowadays, right? So one decisions can be to the benefit of somebody, but at the expense of another one. So we need to adhere to that. But for sure, we need to understand the history behind FATF, how it was formed with the G7 finance ministers, and then how it evolved to become one of the most important organizations for the AML safety regimes post the 9/11 attacks in the US. So now it's when the FATF got much more importance with the 40 recommendations, 40 plus 8, the 8 additional, right? Resolutions that was put to the 40 recommendations was mainly for the terrorist financing, right? And then it evolved from there, and then all those 8 resolutions were embedded into those 40 recommendations, and
Then
now they
I'm
came.
not going to let you off.
Yeah.
Improvement. Where can there be improvements?
Yeah, of course, we can have improvement, but I think I have said, I think that perhaps when the FATF comes to a country to make an assessment, perhaps they need to include a wider community, right, of professionals that can provide their inputs, not only government officials. You see, that perhaps they do not understand what is an ML safety risk. We are in the industry, we understand, we meet it, so we can provide much more input, right? Perhaps we can identify other flaws in the country ourselves that we need to address and help them, not only saying good things, but other things that we can do. So I think that what I can say is that yes, we need whenever we do an assessment, just involve all those key players so that they can provide more insight. Yeah.
That's more like what I was expecting from you, a very sensible, pragmatic advice. And I'll back that up that I've often felt that FATF has been a fantastic initiative because it has helped banking industries. It has helped global economies. It has helped curb the influx of black monies. And all those things are good for a better world, for a more efficient economy. However, the kind of regulations that come seem to be driven by a certain understanding of economies. It needs to be appreciated that world economies are not at the same level everywhere. The structure, the documentation, the complexities differ for different jurisdictions. So perhaps that's an area where the need for understanding and incorporation within the existing laws is much higher, and that would certainly bring additional benefit of more compliance, more ownership, and more integration into the global financial systems. Okay, so we have reached the end of our themes. So far, so good. How are you feeling?
No, it's good. Up to now, I think that we covered many things and many important things. Yeah, a very good discussion, Omer. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your time then. So now we'll open our session for the question and answers from our participants. And I must appreciate that despite a short notice of under 24 hours and a working day, we have a very good audience attending and has joined us at the moment. So the first question that we have is, it's by Ali. He is asking, like everything has its own pros and cons. Are there, in your opinion, any negative effects of these anti-money laundering regulations too? So basically, he's saying we talk about all the benefits all the time, and yeah, we appreciate that. But do you think are there any downside to these regulations?
Yeah, the
Ah,
downside. Yeah, of course. Sorry, Omer. I think that the downside of these regulations is that yes, the law asks us to come forward to report suspicious transactions, and as I've said, there is no perfect uh, uh, regime, no perfect system, right? So you may have all internal control in place, but you might come across somebody who has used organization for money laundering and you have not detected. So what you have done, you have invested in training in machines, in everything, and put everything in place and documented everything, adhere to your regulators' requirements for everything, and check your clients, refuse clients that you think is beyond your risk appetite, all that. But then you find yourself in trouble, right? So these are the negative things that may happen because there is no perfect system, right? And so sometimes you can be, of course, prosecuted, although you have been adhering to and complying with everything. So basically, these are things, and the other thing is that there's a risk that sometimes the fact that you have dealt with a client for so many years and then that client is seeing that the authorities are investigating them for money laundering. So perhaps those clients may think that you have reported them. So these are the risks, but these are only perceptions and the fear behind this and the fear of losing clients. So these negative things also happen. But what I'm going to say is that accountants always need to adhere to what's required by the law and the code of ethics and do the works correctly, right? So losing a client cannot replace the reputation liability that can cause you. So your reputation is more than everything, right? So yeah.
very true. Two things I always say comes to my mind from your discussion. One that you said about reputation. It goes for both individuals and businesses, and it's very close to my heart. And it's a very simple saying, Dan. If you have ethics and character, nothing else matters. If you
Very true.
don't have ethics or character, nothing else matters.
Right.
And secondly, as you rightly said, um, there's always room for improvement. Nothing in this world is perfect. We only have to see that the benefits should outweigh the cost and it should be the best available solution. So great. Now let's move on to the next question. And we do have a lot of interest. We are getting questions on my WhatsApp and profile too. Okay. So the next question to you is that FATF regulations has opened up a new career path. The panel, what does the panel think are the possibilities for ACCA members? So as a career option.
Yeah, of course. So I'm an example, right? Being a professional accountant, being an ACCA member, being the chairman of ACCA network panel, I'm a risk and compliance professional. So I have been serving with a financial intelligence unit, and I think that I'm a respected compliance professional, risk and compliance professional. So I think that in Mauritius, I don't know for Pakistan, but in Mauritius, we have lots of FCCAs who are compliance managers in big companies. And so now we can't say that ACCA is only about accounting. ACCA is less broader. It's a qualifications less broader, give you opportunity to evolve in other sectors, right? So IT, risk management, strategic management, directorship, all that. So I think that there's great prospect for ACCA members to have a career path in compliance and risk management. Yeah.
Agreed. And if you guys are not onto the employment side and more towards entrepreneurial, then you have this example in front of you. You can become a consultant for that, and you can help these businesses and these compliance officers in strengthening their regime. But yes, definitely, as my friend also shared, these regulations have opened up another career, another very exciting career opportunity for our finance professionals, especially ACCAs, because remember, the ACCA qualification sets you up very nicely for anywhere in the world to work in an efficient manner. But definitely, that's a stepping stone. ACCA requires continuous professional development to upskill yourself and update your knowledge. And today's session is our contribution towards that. Next question we have from Mr. Asmatullah Meman. Okay, and it's a tough one. You can let it go if you want to. Since we have a policy that will ask all questions bearing anything which is not ethical or properly worded, I'll just put the question. He asks, Sir, why does FATF not take any action against tax havens which are home to illicit monies?
Yeah, so we can't answer for the VTF. You see, so as I've said, so we professional accountants, we can't be involved in geopolitics and other things being out of the box there. So Mauritius is being considered as a tax haven, you know that, and Mauritius is in the blacklist. So we are an example, but we're doing a great job to combat money laundering in Mauritius, and we have done a great job for us to be removed from that list. And we had for example, the Bahamas, which was on the list, and other things. But it depends on which criteria they are using in qualifying a country to be on that blacklist. So as I've said, we can't answer for the FATF, but for me, we need to just to adhere to what's we need to do, and then put our country on the white list, and that's all. Yeah.
I think you have adequately answered that. For my part, I would add that I always believe that we should focus on what we can do, the positivity, not what should have been done or what is not done. So if there's a deficiency in our system, we can improve that. That would benefit the economy, that would benefit the people, that would benefit the world. And that's what is within our ambit. So let's focus on what's within our ambit and take things forward. Next one, G, another question. And this is by Miss Madia. She's saying, can ACCA members move to Mauritius as a compliance professional for FATF? Okay.
Yeah, I think, yeah, of course. So the ACCA qualification is a global qualification which provide you opportunity to move all over the world. And of course, you need to get to have the required experience and the required expertise. So if you have proved yourself with an organization in your country, and you have proved yourself to be a good compliance professional, so you can postulate for any organizations. And the thing is that you need to be good. You need to be good in what you are doing. And I think that yes, Madiha, I think that you will do good if you come to Mauritius. So just give it a try. But right now, COVID-19, everything, pandemic, and it's not the right moment, right, to just to apply for this job. But once things get to normal after we get the vaccines, all that. So you need to try your luck. And Mauritius is a very beautiful country, I can tell you, and you will like it. And of course, Omer want to come to marry Mauritius very soon. So he can provide you with some more details about Mauritius. So yes, of course, as I've said, you can do that, and as a ACCA member, which is a global classification, of course.
Okay, fantastic. Now we have received a few other questions, but we are short of time. There are a few compliments. Thank you. Great session. Really enjoyed it. Very informative. Thank you for arranging this. Please arrange more in the future. Thank you everyone for joining us. I think it's been a good session, and definitely we will try to hold more such sessions in future. Special thanks to my friend Dan for sparing time. And as we all know, this was a working day, a working week, a day of the week, and you all spared the time and joined us. So we appreciate that. And before signing off, I just want to highlight the work that ACCA's members are doing in voluntary capacities. So the way ACCA works is that ACCA is an association of us, all the members. So at the global level, we have a council, and the role of the council is to devise strategy. And that strategy takes us forward as ACCA has been going ahead by thinking ahead. Now that strategy impacts me, impacts you, impacts us all and the profession as a whole. Then we have MNPs, Member Network Panel, or in some region they are called Member Advisory, Member Network. The names are different, but the theme is the same, that it's a national representative advisory body only. It does not form any policies. It does not hold any other position. The only role of an MNP or member advisory group is to advise the local ACC office and the council of the challenges and members' aspirations. All the fantastic work that you see, the CPDs, the MOUs with the tax bar, the collaborations with the chambers, the events with the regulators, engagement with the employers, the connectivity and sessions of members, going to the various educational institution, etc. That's taken as out of box thing, as going beyond the call of duty. It's not essentially the rule. I'm just telling you this so as members you have a proper understanding. So nowadays the council election is underway, and the last date is 12th of November till 12 p.m. GMT. So depending on your countries, you can check the time as per the region. I would encourage you to please go through all the profiles, read the election statements. It's very important. It's critical that you must cast your vote. Remember, council is the body that helped devise the strategy, and all the different challenges and your aspirations about them. Council is the proper sounding board where they should be taken. Now, this is the time where you can make your voice heard. Unfortunately, member engagements in the past have not been as ideal as we would like. Uh, I think it's been between the region of 5 to 6% globally on average, the member voting proportion, if I'm not mistaken, then, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So we definitely need to increase that. Uh, do participate, do vote so that your voices can be heard. And I would again encourage you to please see the profiles of the members who are standing up for council election. See their track record, what they have done in the past. Have they been connected with you? Have they been delivering for the members? Do you think they are representing you? Do you think they will take your aspirations forward? Because I believe everyone who has come forward is a volunteer, so we must appreciate that they have put themselves forward. But unfortunately, not everyone can represent. There can be only this much representation. So please be very sensible in casting your vote And please not only cast your vote, but share in your circle, encourage your friends. All of us must cast our vote because this is our association. So, any last words, then, for the session today?
Yeah, I'm joining you, what you said, Omer. I think that it's good that you choose the correct person, right, who can represent you, right, at the council. So, as you said, read the statements and read the track records, and of course, and cast your votes. And just don't vote for names. Vote for people who has a very good track record and to represent yourself. So yeah, that's. I think that's well said, Omer. Yeah, thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Dan, for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the session as much as I did. And we'll keep on doing these sessions in the future too, inshallah. Thank you for your time. Thank you, everyone. We are going to take your leave now, but please stay connected. Send any questions that you may have, and we'll see you till next time.
Okay, bye.